There's a certain kind of magic that isn't loud or blinding. It doesn't crash like thunder or blaze across the sky like a comet. No, this magic hums quietly beneath things, beneath staircases and teacups and the rustle of owls in the dark. It lives in dusty trunks and forgotten letters, in the hush of an empty corridor lit by candlelight, and in the soft heartbeat of a child who feels just a little different. Tonight, we begin a story wrapped in just that kind of quiet magic. A story of a boy with a lightning-shaped scar, a hidden world behind brick walls, a train that only leaves from a secret platform, and a school where the staircases move, portraits speak, and bravery wears the colors of crimson and gold. This is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. Written by J.K. Rowling and first published in 1997, this gentle yet deeply magical tale became the first doorway into a world that millions would come to know and love. But here, in the soft hush of bedtime, we'll explore it a little differently. Not in a rush, not for the excitement, but slowly and calmly, like wandering through a quiet forest where each leaf has a story to tell. We'll follow young Harry Potter, not just through battles and broomsticks, but through feelings of loneliness, discovery, and belonging. Through the small gestures of friendship, through the questions of who we are and where we come from, and through the subtle power of love, which runs deeper than spells and far more quietly than thunder. So let us dim the lights in our minds, pull the blankets a little closer, and open the first pages of this dreamlike world. A story hidden. In plain sight at first glance, this story doesn't begin with wands or owls or ancient secrets. It begins in the most ordinary of places. A neat little street called Privet Drive, lined with houses that look just the same. A world of mourning. Newspapers, lawn trimmings, and stiff collars. A world where strange things are hidden away or quickly ignored. But beneath that polished surface, the extraordinary stirs. We'll discover that even in the most rigid routines and grayest places, there are cracks where magic can slip in. A whisper in the wind. A cat who seems just a little too observant. An old man in robes who smiles as though he knows something no one else does. And then, a baby, just a baby, with a small scar, left wrapped in a blanket on a doorstep. A beginning so quiet, it might be missed if one isn't listening carefully. That's how it starts. Not with a bang, but with a whisper. A gentle invitation to wonder Harry. Potter and the Philosopher's Stone is more than just the first adventure in a famous series. It is, at its heart, a tale of awakening. Awakening to magic, yes, but also to self-worth, to friendship, to choice. To the courage that begins as a whisper and grows slowly with every act of kindness and every moment of doubt faced bravely. As we move through this story together, we won't race. We won't rush to the end or leap from twist to twist. Instead, we'll stroll, we'll pause. We'll notice the things often left in the margins, the look in someone's eyes, the quiet joke shared between friends, the shiver of anticipation before the first day at school. We'll spend time in the little rooms of the Dursley house, hear the soft scrape of Aunt Petunia's frying pan, feel the ache of Harry's cupboard under the stairs. Then, later, we'll explore a shop filled with wands or walk down a stone corridor where ghosts pass by like echoes of stories long past. And always, we'll follow Harry, the boy who lived. The boy who wonders. The boy who, even when he doesn't believe in himself, is destined to shine. Themes to hold close. Though we'll talk about spells and potions, strange creatures and enchanted mirrors, it's the emotions underneath that truly shape this tale. Let's take a moment to softly explore the themes that guide our journey. Belonging Harry begins in a world where he is made to feel unwanted. But with each step into the magical world, he discovers people who see him, value him and love him, not for what he can do, but for who he is. Belonging doesn't come from grand gestures. It comes from small, everyday moments. Sharing a chocolate frog, offering a seat on the train, standing by someone when they're afraid. These moments will glow quietly throughout the story like warm lamps in the fog. Friendship from Ron's easy smile to Hermione's fierce loyalty. The friendships in this book are tender threads that bind the heart of the story. They begin in uncertainty, are tested in fire, and grow stronger with each challenge. We'll walk with these three as they learn to trust, argue, laugh, and stand together. Their bond is not perfect, but it is true. Courage. Not the kind of courage that shouts or battles, but the kind that shows up when it's needed, that speaks up when staying silent would be easier, that chooses to do the right thing, even when it's small and quiet. As Professor Dumbledore will one day say, it takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to our enemies, but just as much to stand up to our friends. This kind of courage lives softly in the corners of this story. Love, and finally, love. The quiet, powerful force that shields, heals, and endures. It is present from the very beginning, protecting Harry, even when he doesn't know it. It weaves through the story like an invisible charm, deeper than spells, stronger than fear. This book gently shows us that love isn't just a feeling. It's an action, a choice, a light that stays even in the darkest rooms, setting a castle like no other. Let your imagination drift toward the great castle of Hogwarts, standing alone on a cliff above a dark lake, its windows glowing like lanterns in the night. Inside, staircases move as if they're dreaming. Portraits whisper. Owls sweep through the rafters like feathery messengers from another world. There are towers that reach the clouds and dungeons that smell of damp stone. Classrooms filled with bubbling cauldrons and enchanted books. Greenhouses where strange plants tremble and bloom. It is a place that feels like home the moment you arrive, not because it is perfect, but because it is alive with wonder. We'll explore it all, slowly, carefully, with quiet footsteps. From the great hall with its floating candles to the cozy common rooms warmed by firelight, and we'll meet its caretakers, the kind and the curious, the stern and the mysterious, professors, ghosts, creatures, and a caretaker with a lantern who walks the halls at night, muttering to his cat. A gentle path forward. This book holds many things: mystery, mischief, and moments of awe. But here, in this bedtime journey, we will cradle the story with softness. Each chapter will be a lullaby of discovery, a tapestry of gentle detail. No loud noises, no sharp edges. Just the slow, poetic unfolding of a world where even the smallest acts can shape a great story. So whether you've read this book many times or are discovering it for the first time, let this version be a quiet dream. One where you are never rushed, never startled, always safe and warmly guided. You are welcome here. And now, let us begin with the first chapter. Chapter 1, The Boy Who Lived. The story begins not with a wizard or a castle, but with a man named Vernon Dursley, who works at a place called Grunnings, where they make drills. He lives in a neat, gray little house on Privet Drive, with his wife, Petunia, and their rather spoiled, round-faced son, Dudley. The Dursleys pride themselves on being perfectly normal, thank you very much. They like things to be predictable: quiet breakfasts, tidy lawns, and no unusual behavior of any kind. But on this particular morning, something feels a little off as Mr. Dursley leaves for work, briefcase in hand and a tight little frown on his face. The world around him seems different, not loud or chaotic, just a soft strangeness that slips through the cracks. He notices a cat sitting and reading a map. At first, he tells himself it must be a trick of the light, or his tired eyes playing games. But when the cat turns to look at him, really look, it feels oddly human. And then, there are the people in cloaks. They gather on street corners and whisper excitedly, their eyes shining as though sharing a marvelous secret. They don't look worried or dangerous. They look joyful, emotional, as if they've just heard something wonderful. Mr. Dursley is unsettled. The world seems to be behaving in a way it shouldn't. And then, at work, he hears people whispering about something called the Potters. That name he knows. Petunia's estranged sister is married to a man named Potter. Vernon has never liked them. Too strange, too unnormal. And yet, when he hears they might be involved in, well, whatever is happening, he grows nervous. Back home that evening, he tries to act as though everything is fine. But Petunia, always sharp and suspicious, notices the tension in his shoulders. She brushes it off with a sniff. As far as she's concerned, her sister and that entire world are best left forgotten. But outside, the sky is beginning to darken. A hush falls over Privet Drive, and the streetlights flicker softly. And in that silence, a man appears. He's tall, thin, with a long silver beard and robes that shimmer gently in the light. His name is Albus Dumbledore. And as he moves through the night, he takes out a small device, a put-outer, and clicks it once, twice, until the lights along the street vanish, leaving only the glow of stars and his own quiet steps. The cat, Mr. Dursley had seen earlier shifts and transforms gracefully into a woman. Professor McGonagall, stern, elegant, and deeply thoughtful. Together they speak in low voices, voices that carry the weight of something both terrible and beautiful. Voldemort, the dark wizard who had brought so much fear into the magical world, is gone, vanished, defeated. People are celebrating everywhere, but it isn't only his fall that stirs their hearts, it's the miracle that accompanied it. A child, a baby boy. Somehow the Dark Lord had tried to kill him and failed. The boy had survived. Harry Potter. Professor McGonagall is deeply concerned. She doesn't trust the Muggles, non-magical people like the Dursleys. She doesn't believe they'll treat the boy kindly. But Dumbledore, wise and sorrowful, insists that the child must grow up away from fame and whispers. He must be allowed to live an ordinary life, at least for a little while. And then, with a soft rumble, a giant appears, Hagrid, flying a motorbike through the clouds. He lands gently, holding a small bundle wrapped in blankets. It's Harry. He's asleep tiny, his hair already dark and messy. On his forehead, a delicate lightning-shaped scar. Hagrid's eyes brim with tears. He has brought the boy safely, but he hates to let him go. He doesn't want to say goodbye. Dumbledore leans down and places the child gently on the doorstep of number 4, Privet Drive. Alongside him, a letter. A letter that will explain everything to the Dursleys, or at least enough. There's a stillness, now. The 3 adults, wizard, witch, and half-giant, stand in the silent night gazing down at the baby. No magic crackles in the air, no fireworks or fanfare, just a gentle breeze and the soft coo of an owl overhead. They step back. The sky begins to lighten ever so slightly. Somewhere far off, a bird begins to sing, and there he lies, a boy with no idea of the world waiting for him. No knowledge of what he survived or who he will become. Just a child, breathing softly, beneath the wide and watching stars. Harry Potter. The boy who lived, and the world. holds its breath. Chapter 2. The Vanishing Glass. Nearly 10 years have passed since that quiet night on Privet Drive, and the boy with the lightning-shaped scar has grown. He is small for his age, thin, with unruly black hair that never seems to lie flat, and round glasses that are often held together with tape. His name is Harry Potter, but at number 4 he is treated more like a burden than a boy. He sleeps in a cupboard under the stairs, a narrow, musty space with spiders in the corners and just enough room for a small bed and a few broken toys Dudley has outgrown. Every morning, Aunt Petunia's shrill voice calls him out early to make breakfast, and every day he is scolded for things he cannot control. He wears Dudley's oversized clothes, which hang off his slender frame. He is never given birthday presents, and he is never spoken to kindly. But despite all this, Harry remains quietly curious and deeply observant. There's something about him that seems different, and he feels it too, like a hum beneath the skin. Dudley, his cousin, is spoiled and loud, with a temper as quick as it is unreasonable. On his birthday, he receives 37 presents and yet throws a fit because it's fewer than last year. His world is filled with noise and sweets and tantrums, while Harry's is quieter, made of second-hand books and whispered thoughts. On this particular morning, Petunia is frantically preparing for Dudley's birthday outing, a trip to the zoo. Harry is not meant to come. Usually a neighbor is asked to watch him, or he's left alone in the house, but today plans fall through, and with reluctance, the Dursleys allow Harry to join, under strict warning that he must not speak, not cause trouble, and not do anything strange. Harry doesn't know what they mean by strange, but strange things have always happened around him. Like the time Aunt Petunia gave him a terrible haircut and it grew back overnight, or when Dudley's gang chased him, and somehow he found himself on the school roof though he hadn't climbed, or when he shrunk one of Dudley's old sweaters just by pulling it over his head. But he never tells anyone. He simply wonders quietly, beneath his breath. The trip to the zoo begins uneventfully. Dudley and his friend Piers are loud and impatient, dragging their feet through the reptile house with exaggerated yawns. But Harry is enchanted. The dim, humid room is filled with glass tanks and the slow movement of creatures most people ignore. There's something about the quietness, the stillness that draws him in. He pauses before a long tank where a snake rests on a warm rock, its coils motionless and eyes blinking with lazy awareness. Dudley presses his face rudely to the glass and complains when the snake doesn't move. He thumps the glass, laughs, and walks away. But Harry lingers. He places a hand gently on the tank, and in a soft voice, speaks to the snake. Not expecting an answer, of course, just offering his thoughts. And then the snake opens its eyes, wider, lifts its head slightly and gives him a look. A knowing look. Harry stumbles back in surprise. Did it nod? Was that a wink? And then it gets stranger. The snake doesn't speak with words, but Harry hears it inside his mind like the echo of a whisper. A friendly, slightly amused whisper. It's a boa constrictor, the snake explains, from Brazil, though it's never been. It was bred in captivity. It has spent its whole life behind glass, watched by noisy children and clumsy hands. Harry listens, fascinated. It doesn't feel frightening. It feels like being seen. He presses closer, their quiet conversation unfolding, like the most natural thing in the world. But then Dudley returns, sees Harry at the front and shoves him roughly aside to get a better look. That's when it happens. The glass vanishes. One moment it's there, solid and cool, and the next, it's gone. Piers shrieks. Dudley falls backward. The snake uncoils smoothly, slithering out of the tank and across the floor. But it doesn't bite or hiss. Instead, it slides calmly past Harry and pauses, and then softly, it says, "Thanks." A small word filled with warmth. Harry watches as it disappears into the shadows. Moments later, chaos erupts. Zookeepers rush in. Visitors scream. The glass reappears as mysteriously as it vanished, and Harry is left standing very still, blinking in wonder. On the way home, he is scolded, shouted at, and punished. Locked back in his cupboard, he is told again and again that this is his fault, that he is strange. But as he lies awake on the small, creaky mattress, staring at the underside of the stairs, something stirs inside him. A question, a possibility, a flicker of magic. He doesn't know what it means yet, only that it's real, that something inside him is different, and for the first time in his quiet gray life, he begins to imagine that maybe, just maybe, there is something more waiting for him beyond the cupboard and the chores. Something strange, something wonderful. Chapter 3, The Letters from No One. Time has passed in its slow, measured way at number 4 Privet Drive. Harry Potter's life remains quiet, tucked into the shadows of Dudley's loud tantrums and Aunt Petunia's sharp, sniffing disapproval. He grows used to the cupboard under the stairs, to meals that are barely enough, to being spoken to as though he's invisible. And all the while, something restless stirs beneath the surface, a soft unease, like the pressure in the air before a summer storm. Then one morning, something unusual arrives. It begins, as these things often do, with a letter. Not just any letter. This one is addressed in a flowing green ink, neat and slanted, sealed with deep red wax and stamped with a curious crest. What's strange isn't just the handwriting or the seal, it's the way it's addressed. Mr. H. Potter, The Cupboard Under the Stairs, 4 Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey. The letter knows. It knows where he sleeps. It knows who he is. Harry is stunned. But before he can open it, Uncle Vernon snatches it from his hands. His face pales, then turns red, blotchy with disbelief. He tears the letter open, reads it quickly, and immediately burns it in the kitchen sink. Harry protests, gently at first, confused and curious, but Vernon growls. "No more of this nonsense," he mutters. Harry doesn't even know what nonsense they're referring to. But something about the letter makes his heart beat faster, as though it holds a key to something long locked away. The next day, another letter arrives. Then another. More and more, each one more determined than the last. Some squeeze under the door, others drop through the chimney. Owls begin to gather around Privet Drive, their eyes unblinking, waiting. The Dursleys descend into full-blown panic. Vernon boards up the letterbox. He nails shut the windows. He rants and mutters, eyes darting nervously from the curtains to the ceiling. He is unraveling piece by piece, as though the idea of someone reaching Harry, truly reaching him, is too much to bear. And Harry feels something strange. Not fear exactly, but anticipation. A low hum of longing. The letters, he senses, are meant for him, meant to explain something no one else ever has. Still, the Dursleys keep them from him. They double down on silence and control. Until at last, Vernon snaps. He piles the family into the car, Dudley grumbling, Petunia clutching her pearls, Harry quietly blinking in the back seat, and drives off into the countryside, through winding roads and gray skies. They sleep in a grimy hotel that night. The next morning, a letter awaits them at the front desk. Mr. H. Potter Room, 17 Railview Hotel, Cokeworth. It's following him. Not in a way that feels frightening, but in a way that feels faded, Vernon loses what little composure he has left. He doesn't speak much that day, only grips the wheel tightly and drives until the roads vanish, and the sea stretches out before them like a silver mirror. There he finds a shack perched on a rocky island. Cold and damp, it leans against the wind like an old man hunched in the rain. Inside, there is barely room to breathe. Just a hearth, a rusted stove, and a few tattered blankets. The wind howls outside. The tide crashes like distant drums, and inside on the floor, Harry lies awake. Midnight draws near. It is almost his 11th birthday. He traces the shape of the letter in his mind, the green ink, the wax seal, the way it knew him, knew where he belonged. He does not know what it says, but he believes with every soft breath that it was meant to find him, and just as the clock ticks over to midnight, boom. A knock echoes on the door, not a light tap, a deep, echoing thud like thunder wrapped in a fist. The Dursleys jolt awake. The door shudders again, and again. Then, slowly, the lock turns, and the door opens. Standing in the doorway is a giant of a man, cloaked in shadows and rain. His wild hair clings to his face. His eyes shine with warmth. He steps forward into the flickering firelight and he smiles. "Sorry about that," he says in a voice rough and kind. "I should have knocked softer." Harry sits up slowly, heart thudding, breath caught, because, somehow without knowing why or how, he feels like the storm has finally arrived for him, but not to hurt him, to bring him home. Chapter 4. The Keeper of the Keys. The wind still howls around the lonely shack as the door creaks open, and in the frame stands a figure, half shadow, half storm. He is enormous, towering, broad-shouldered, wild-haired, like a man built of mountain stone and tangled forest. His eyes, though, are warm and crinkled with kindness, like lanterns behind a shaggy beard. This is Rubeus Hagrid. His coat, long and moleskin, drips seawater onto the wooden floor, and in one massive hand he carries something wrapped in crinkled paper. "Couldn't make us a cup of tea, could you?" he asks cheerfully, brushing past the stunned Dursleys as if they were mere furniture. Then, turning to Harry, he smiles, more fully. "Last time I saw you, you was only a baby." Harry stares up at him, unsure whether to be frightened or comforted. But there is something about Hagrid, a soft steadiness behind the wildness that feels safe, like a fire gently crackling in a storm. From his pocket, Hagrid pulls out a slightly squashed package. "Made it myself," he mutters shyly. Inside is a homemade birthday cake, the icing a little smudged, the words spelled out in lopsided pink. "Happy birthday, Harry." Harry blinks. No one has ever remembered his birthday before. No one has ever made him a cake. And then, softly, kindly, Hagrid tells him why he's really come. "You're a wizard, Harry," just like that. A truth unwrapped like a secret long buried in the folds of the world. The room holds its breath. The wind rattles against the windows, but inside, time seems to hush. Harry laughs, nervously, confused. "A what?" "A wizard," Hagrid says again, patiently. "And a thumping good one, I'd say, once you've been trained up a bit." The Dursleys protest. Vernon sputters. Petunia's face twists in fury, in fear. But Hagrid waves them away like smoke. They've kept it from Harry, he explains. They never told him the truth, not about his parents, not about who he is. His mother and father, Lily and James Potter, weren't killed in a car crash. No, they were powerful wizards, beloved, brave, and they died protecting Harry from a dark, Wizard named Voldemort, a name Hagrid whispers with a shiver as though even saying it dims the room, and Harry, little baby Harry, survived. The only one to ever survive Voldemort's killing curse. He tried to kill you and he couldn't. That's why you're famous, Harry. Harry sits very still. The wind pounds against the shack. The fire crackles, and somewhere inside him, 1,000 pieces of forgotten questions begin to fit. That scar, the whispering snake, the way the letter knew his cupboard, the strange things that always seemed to happen around him. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't nonsense, it was magic. Vernon, in a final trembling rage, tries to stop it, says Harry will not go to that freak school, not while he's in his house. And Hagrid, with a quiet fury, grows taller somehow. You didn't think it was right to tell him anything. Never told him what was in the letter Dumbledore left with him. Petunia's voice breaks the silence, cold and sharp. She speaks of her sister, Lily, of the jealousy, of the fear, of the choice to shut it all away. We swore we'd put a stop to all that rubbish, she hisses. We're normal. We don't want any of that kind of nonsense. But the truth is out now, and truth, once spoken, cannot be unspoken. Hagrid turns to Harry with a soft sigh. I'm here to take you to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, he says. Your place is there, Harry. With us. And Harry, small, uncertain, still aching from years of silence in cupboards and cold birthdays, finds himself nodding, because for the first time something fits, a place, a purpose, a feeling of belonging. He is not a mistake, not broken, not strange. He is something rare, something bright. He is a wizard, and somewhere, far from the crashing waves and the boarded windows, a castle waits, high on a hill, wrapped in mist and magic, with hallways that move and portraits that speak, with owls and spells and secrets, and soon Harry Potter will go there to find who he is and who he's always been. Chapter 5. Diagon Alley. Morning arrives quietly, its gray light brushing against the windows of the shack on the sea. The storm has passed, leaving only the soft hush of waves and the creak of old wood. Harry wakes to the scent of sausages sizzling over a fire. Hagrid is still there, his large form hunched cheerfully over the stove. It hadn't been a dream. The giant, the letter, the truth, it had all happened, and today Harry is going shopping for school, but not to any ordinary shop. Hogwarts, it seems, requires very specific items: robes and spell books, potions and cauldrons, a wand and a pet, all waiting for him in a place Hagrid calls Diagon Alley. They leave the shack by boat, Hagrid rowing, the sea gentle now, then a train back to London. The world feels suddenly alive to Harry, as though layers of it have peeled back and begun to hum with secret life. Inside the bustling city, Hagrid leads him to a quiet corner, then taps his umbrella, pink and battered, against a brick wall behind a pub called the Leaky Cauldron. 3 taps, a pause, and the bricks begin to move. Stone folds like paper, revealing an archway, and beyond it, the world unfolds. Diagon Alley. It's like stepping into a dream wrapped in cobblestones. Shops spill with potions bubbling in glass jars. Robes flutter on hangers. Owls hoot softly from iron cages. Cauldrons of all sizes glint in the morning sun. The air smells of parchment, spices, and something faintly electric, like magic drifting on warm air. Witches and wizards bustle past in flowing cloaks. A boy zooms by on a toy broomstick. A talking mirror argues with a hat in a window. Harry doesn't know where to look first, and everywhere he goes, people stare, some whisper, some smile, a few step forward to shake his hand. You're the Boy who lived, they murmur, voices filled with wonder. Harry blushes. He doesn't feel like anything special, just a boy with borrowed clothes and too many questions. But Hagrid pats him on the shoulder, steady and kind. You'll get used to it, he says. First stop, Gringotts, the Wizard Bank, a towering white building guarded by goblins, sharp-eyed, small, and elegant in their movements. They ride a cart deep underground, the tunnel lit by torches that flicker against cold stone walls. The cart whips through turns and drops with dizzying speed, but Harry clings on, heart thudding, not from fear, but awe. At the end of the track is Vault 687. It's Harry's inside stacked in neat piles as gold. More than Harry has ever seen. His parents left it for him. Enough to pay for school and then some. A gift from a past he barely remembers. The goblin then takes them to another vault. One far more mysterious. Vault 7 on 13. It's empty except for a small wrapped package which Hagrid pockets carefully. He says it's Hogwarts business. Harry doesn't ask more. Yet. Back above ground, they begin to gather his things. From Madame Malkin's, a set of school robes, black and flowing, trimmed for autumn. There he meets a pale boy with a pointed face talking loudly about Quidditch and bloodlines. Harry listens quietly, unsure what to think. They stop for parchment and ink, glass vials and brass scales. A snowy owl, fierce-eyed and elegant, flaps in a cage until Hagrid buys her for Harry. Happy birthday, he says. Harry can hardly speak. Then, last of all, Ollivander's. The wand shop is narrow, filled with boxes stacked like silent watchers from floor to ceiling. The air is still. Dust drifts like silver threads. Mr. Ollivander appears like a whisper, tall and pale, with silvery eyes that seem to see right through Harry. He speaks softly, moving between shelves with graceful fingers. Every wand has a core, dragon heartstring, phoenix feather unicorn hair, and the wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter. Harry tries wand after wand. Some shoot sparks, some whistle, but none feel right. Until he holds a wand, 11 inches, holly and phoenix feather. A warmth spreads through his fingers. A golden wind seems to stir the dust. The air hums. Ollivander watches, eyes gleaming. Curious, he murmurs. Very curious. He tells Harry the phoenix feather in that wand comes from a phoenix that gave only one other feather. And that feather gave you your scar. The other wand, its twin, belonged to Voldemort. Harry is silent. The weight of the wand hums in his hand. Not heavy, but full. He doesn't understand all of it yet, but he senses it matters, that it always will. They leave the shop as afternoon sunlight slants across the alley. Bags in hand, wand in pocket, owl hooting softly from her cage. Harry feels something bloom in his chest. Not fear, not confusion, but belonging. This world, strange and dazzling, full of magic and memory, it's where he's meant to be. And soon, he'll be leaving the Dursleys behind. He'll be stepping into a castle of enchantments, a place filled with spells and secrets and stories waiting to unfold. But for now, he stands quietly at the edge of Diagon Alley, watching the light dance on cobblestones. And for the first time in his life, he is not looking through a window. He is inside. Chapter 6. The Journey from Platform 9 3/4. The last morning of August wakes cool and quiet. Sunlight filters softly through the windows of number 4, Privet Drive, and somewhere upstairs, a boy sits on the edge of his bed, his trunk packed, an owl in her cage, a ticket clutched tightly in one hand. Platform 934. That's what the ticket says. No directions, no map. Just the promise of a hidden place and the name of a train that only certain eyes can find. Uncle Vernon drives him to the station, muttering darkly the whole way. When they arrive at King's Cross, he sneers and leaves Harry at the barrier between platforms 9 and 10, amused perhaps at what he thinks is a prank. But Harry stands there, alone, unsure, the rush of commuters and the chatter of suitcases filling the air. There's no sign for 9 3/4, no sign of magic, just bricks, just tracks, just doubt. Until he hears it, a kind voice, a woman calling to her children, packed with muggles, of course. Harry turns and sees her, a plump, warm-faced woman with red hair, surrounded by boys dragging trunks and an owl hooting from a cage. One of the boys has a small mark on his nose, as if the platform itself has left its kiss. He steps closer. "Excuse me." She turns, surprised, and smiles gently. "Hello, dear. First time at Hogwarts?" He nods. She shows him how it's done. "You just walk straight at the barrier. Bit of a run if you're nervous." Harry breathes deep. The bricks stare back at him. He pushes his trolley forward. And then, just like that, he's through. The world blooms. A scarlet steam engine waits on the track, billowing smoke into the cool air. Students crowd the platform. Robes swishing, trunks clattering, owls hooting, and cats weaving between feet. This is platform 9 3/4. The Hogwarts Express gleams in the morning light. Harry finds an empty compartment and settles, in nerves fluttering in his chest like birds before flight. Not long after, one of the red-haired boys enters. The same one who just passed through the barrier with his family. He's tallish and freckled, with a lanky sort of charm and a friendly shyness. "Mind if I sit here?" he asks. Harry smiles. "Sure." And so begins a quiet beginning to a lifelong friendship. His name is Ron Weasley, sixth in a line of brothers, all of whom have been to Hogwarts before him. He speaks with an easy honesty, rambling about spells and classes, sharing his hand-me-downs and worries in the same breath. They talk and laugh, and as the train rolls forward, their stories begin to intertwine. A trolley rattles past the compartment door. "Anything from the trolley, dears?" Harry, who has never had pocket money in his life, reaches into his new pouch of wizarding coins. He buys one of everything: chocolate frogs, pumpkin pasties, cauldron cakes, licorice wands, Bertie Bott's, every flavor beans. They pile the sweets between them and taste each one, guessing the flavors, laughing when the beans turn out to be earwax or pepper. Ron pulls out a wand and tries a spell to turn his rat scabbers yellow. It fizzles. Nothing happens. Harry doesn't mind. It's all magic to him. And then the door slides open again. 2 more students stand there. A boy, round-faced and nervous, looking for a lost toad, and a girl with wild brown hair and a firm, bossy tone. "I'm Hermione Granger," she says briskly. "And you are?" Her wand work is polished already. She's read all the books, knows all the spells by heart. Harry and Ron glance at each other, unsure what to make of her. But even now, there's something undeniable about her presence. Bright and sharp and deeply kind beneath the confidence. Neville, the boy with the toad, thanks them and shuffles away. Hermione follows, but not without giving Ron's rat a skeptical glance. The train carries them onward, its whistle echoing through valleys and meadows and thickening forests. The sky darkens, clouds stretching like velvet across the sky. Soon they change into their robes. A voice rings out through the train. "We'll be reaching Hogwarts in 5 minutes. Please leave your luggage on the train." The train slows. The compartment fills with anticipation. Through the windows, the castle comes into view at last. Hogwarts, perched on a cliff, lit with golden windows, towers rising into the night, a reflection of dreams and something older than time itself. Like a memory no one ever told Harry, but he somehow always knew. On the platform, a familiar voice calls out, Fur's years over here." Hagrid is waiting, a lantern swinging in his hand. They climb into boats, 4 to a boat, and glide across the black lake, moonlight painting ripples on the water. The castle grows closer with each stroke of silence. Its spires touch the stars. And in that moment, with wind in his hair and friendship warming his side, Harry Potter knows he is about to go home. Not the home of bricks and tight cupboards, but the home of magic and meaning. A place where he will not be just the boy who lived, but the boy who belongs. Chapter 7. The Sorting Hat. The boats bump gently against the stone bank, and Hagrid leads them all up a steep path, lanterns swinging through the velvet dark. The night is cool, with mist curling at the edges, and the castle towers above them, ancient and silent, full of unseen corridors and secrets waiting in the walls. They reach a great oak front door. With a low creak, it swings open. They are ushered into a vast entrance hall, its ceiling stretching far above, stone walls echoing softly. With their steps, torches flicker in brackets, casting shadows that dance quietly along the flagstones. Harry feels it again, that quiet hum beneath his feet. Magic not in spells or words, but in the very stones of the place. A pulse older than memory. A stern voice greets them. Professor McGonagall. Tall, regal, and composed, she addresses the group of first years with calm precision. Her words are formal, but not unkind. She explains the next step, the ceremony that will place each of them into one. Of the 4 schoolhouses, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, or Slytherin, each house, she says, has its own noble history, its own common room, its own students, its own identity. Where they are sorted will shape much of their time at Hogwarts. And now, the time has come. As they wait, Harry's stomach twists. He whispers to Ron, asking what they'll have to do. "Some sort of test, I think," Ron mutters. Fred said something about wrestling a troll, but they don't have time to worry further. The doors swing open. They enter the great hall, and it's like stepping into starlight. The ceiling high and endless mirrors the sky above, spangled with stars. Candles float in midair, their flames steady, suspended above long tables filled with students watching the newcomers. 4 house tables, each one humming with the rustle of robes, the clink of plates, the glint of curious eyes. And at the front, raised on a platform, a long table of teachers. At its center sits Albus Dumbledore, with half-moon glasses and a beard like silver rain. His eyes twinkle, though he says nothing yet. Before them all is a small wooden stool, and atop it, a tattered, patched and ancient hat. It sits still, until it doesn't. A seam near the brim opens wide, and the hat begins to sing. Its voice is soft, lilting and wise, like the echo of 1,000 thoughts woven together. It tells the tale of the 4 founders of Hogwarts. Godric Gryffindor, brave of heart. Helga Hufflepuff, kind and true. Rowena Ravenclaw, sharp of mind. Salazar Slytherin, cunning and proud. Each house reflects its founder's soul. And the hat, it says, will read your mind and place you where you truly belong. Some students smile, others pale. The sorting begins. One by one, names are called. Abbott, Hannah, Bones, Susan, Finch, Fletchley, Justin. The hall echoes with applause as each student is sorted. The hat barely touches some heads before calling out a house. Others take longer. When Hermione Granger sits, the hat hesitates, whispering of bravery and cleverness before choosing Gryffindor. Neville Longbottom trembles under the hat's folds. It considers Hufflepuff, but in the end, whispers Gryffindor into his ear, and then Potter, Harry. The hall falls into a hush. Every eye turns to him. Harry steps forward slowly, nerves dancing like moths in his chest. The hat is placed on his head, and at once it begins to speak, not aloud but inside his mind. Well, well, it says, its voice soft and ancient. Difficult, very difficult. You have courage, that's clear, and a thirst to prove yourself. Oh, you would do well in Slytherin. No, Harry thinks firmly. Not Slytherin. Not Slytherin, eh? The hat murmurs. Are you sure? You could be great, you know. But Harry's heart holds steady, and at last, the hat calls out, Gryffindor! The table beneath the red and gold banner erupts in cheers. Harry pulls off the hat, dazed, with relief, and walks to join his house, sitting beside Ron and Hermione. As the ceremony continues, others are sorted. Ron joins Gryffindor as well, face flushed with excitement. And at the Slytherin table, Draco Malfoy smirks as he takes his place among the green and silver-clad students. At last, all are seated. Dumbledore stands. He speaks only briefly, welcoming them all with gentle humor, naming a few nonsensical rules, including the prohibition of magic in corridors and a warning not to enter the third-floor corridor unless you wish to die a very painful death. Then simply says, "Let the feast begin." And it does. Plates fill magically with food, roasts and pies, puddings and cakes. The hall fills with chatter, with laughter, with the gentle sounds of belonging blooming like light through fog. Harry eats until he's full, then listens as ghosts drift between tables chatting with students. Nearly headless Nick, the Gryffindor ghost, hovers nearby, proud and friendly, despite his lopsided head. Finally, the feast ends. They are led through the castle by the Gryffindor prefect, Percy Weasley. The hallways twist and climb, lined with portraits that move and whisper, staircases that shift, and tapestries that hide secret doors. They reach the Gryffindor common room, hidden behind a painting of a fat lady in a pink dress. "Password?" she asks. "Caput Draconis," Percy replies. The portrait swings forward. Inside is a cozy room filled with red and gold, glowing with warmth and soft chairs. A fire crackles in the hearth. Their dormitory lies up a spiral staircase. Harry changes into his pajamas, brushes his teeth beside Ron, and crawls into a four-poster bed with heavy curtains. For a moment, he lies there in the dark. Owls hoot softly outside. The castle settles around him like a lullaby, and as his eyes begin to close, he smiles. He is here. He is home. The boy who once lived in a cupboard now sleeps in a tower beneath starlight, wrapped in magic and possibility. Chapter 8: The Potions Master. Sunlight spills across stone floors as Harry wakes beneath the velvet canopy of his four-poster bed. His first morning as a Hogwarts student. The unfamiliar comfort still feels dreamlike. Layers of warmth, soft, robes at the foot of his bed, and the golden hush of early morning in the tower. Ron stirs beside him. The dormitory slowly wakes with rustles and yawns, the murmur of boys blinking into a new life. Soon they are dressed in black robes with red and gold trim. A sense of quiet excitement hangs in the air. Schedules arrive, neat parchment cards handed out by Percy, who seems endlessly proud of his prefect badge and new authority. Their classes today begin with herbology in the greenhouses with the Hufflepuffs. The greenhouse air is warm and damp, earthy, full of the scent of damp soil and green life. Professor Sprout is small, kindly, and a bit muddy, her hands always working with some curious plant. She explains the uses of herbs and magical flora, pointing out dangerous leaves and healing stems, speaking with care and quiet joy. After herbology, it's history of magic, taught by Professor Binns, a ghost so old he forgot he'd died and simply continued teaching. His transparent form floats at the front of the class, reading names and dates in a dry drone. The classroom is warm, and the lessons blur into background hums. Harry struggles to stay awake, the voice washing over him like a soft tide. Then comes Charms with Professor Flitwick, a tiny wizard with a squeaky voice and great enthusiasm. He teeters on a stack of books just to see over his desk, and squeals with delight when talking about levitation spells. The class begins with introductions and wand handling. No real magic just yet, just the sense of something beginning to stir. Through it all, whispers follow Harry. Students glance at him in corridors. Some boldly ask about the lightning scar. Others speak his name in hushed tones, sometimes with awe, sometimes with curiosity, sometimes with doubt. He feels their gazes like leaves brushing against his shoulders, soft but constant. And then comes the moment he's quietly dreading. Potions class. Held in the dungeons, cool and dim, lit by low torches that flicker against the damp stone. The air smells faintly of earth and something sharper. It's shared with Slytherin, which already sets Harry on edge. They file in and sit at the long wooden benches, cauldrons waiting cold and empty. And then the door opens. Professor Snape. He enters like a shadow stretched thin, black robes billowing, slightly, his face pale and drawn, his dark eyes sharp beneath slicked back hair. He speaks quietly, but the room stills at once. Snape begins not with a greeting, but a challenge. "You are here to learn the subtle science and exact art of potion making," he says softly, like silk hiding a thorn. "As there is little foolish wand-waving here, many of you will hardly believe this is magic." His words are deliberate. Each sentence draws the room deeper into silence. Then he turns. His eyes land on Harry, and something shifts. Snape asks him questions, sharp, unexpected. What would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? Harry blinks. He doesn't know. Snape's lip curls. He asks more, about Bezoars, about Wolfsbane. Harry stammers, still lost. Hermione's hand flies into the air each time, eager, desperate to answer. But Snape ignores her. Ron frowns. Seamus mutters something under his breath. Harry flushes. The other students watch in silence, tension gathering like cold mist. Snape's tone never rises, but it cuts. A flicker of something deeper simmers behind his words, something not quite explained. He seems to dislike Harry, intensely, yet Harry has never met him before. As the lesson continues, they learn the steps for brewing a simple potion. Snape's instructions are clipped and exacting. He glides between tables, robes brushing the floor, watching with sharp eyes for mistakes. Harry feels the pressure like a weight. His hands tremble slightly as he adds beetle eyes to his cauldron. Beside him, Hermione works with quiet precision. Ron glares at the back of Snape's head. As the lesson ends, Snape assigns extra homework to Harry. A cold smirk flickers across his face. They leave the dungeon under the dim torches, Harry's mind racing with confusion. Why does he hate me? He asks Ron. Ron shrugs. Dunno. Maybe he just hates everyone. But the feeling lingers. Outside, the world brightens again. They have Transfiguration with Professor McGonagall, a subject full of strange beauty. She demonstrates with a flick of her wand, turning her desk into a pig and back again. The students gasp. She is strict, yes, but fair and honest. Even the silence in her classroom feels like it belongs. In the Great Hall, lunch is a cheerful break. Platters appear as if by magic. Roast beef, Yorkshire puddings, stews that steam in the golden air. Owls swoop overhead, delivering letters and small parcels. Laughter returns to Harry's face, but the memory of Snape's cold stare stays like a shadow behind his eyes. Days begin to form a rhythm. Lessons, meals, staircases that move when you least expect them, portraits that speak, ghosts that drift silently by. Hogwarts is full of magic, but also of questions, whispers in the corridors, secrets in the shadows. Harry learns that Peeves the poltergeist delights in mischief, hurling chalk, flipping rugs, and singing nonsense rhymes as he sails through the air. He also learns that not all Slytherins are like Draco Malfoy, but many do follow his lead. The rivalry between houses is old and quiet, but present like the tension before a storm. Still, small things begin to warm the days. A laugh shared with Ron, the sound of an owl's wings, the way the common room glows at night like a hearth in winter. Magic is not always dazzling. Sometimes it is simply knowing you belong somewhere at last. As the week ends, Harry lies again beneath the canopy of his bed, thinking not only of potions and shadows, but of the castle itself, the way it holds stories in every stone. And though Snape's gaze still unnerves him, Hogwarts already feels like home. Chapter 9. The Midnight Duel. It begins on a morning rich with promise. The September air is crisp and cool, and the sky overhead is a clean sheet of pale blue. Harry and the other first years have received a new line on their schedules. Flying, lessons to be held on the school's wide, grassy grounds. They gather outside the castle, robes tugging in the breeze, chattering nervously as they wait for Madame Hooch, the flying instructor. Rows of broomsticks lie on the ground before them, each one crooked and worn, twigs poking out like messy hair. Harry's heart flutters with anticipation. A broomstick. It feels like the beginning of something ancient and wild. Madame Hooch arrives with a whistle and short, brisk commands. She has sharp eyes and short gray hair, and a presence that quiets the group quickly. She orders them to stand beside a broom and command it to rise. Up, the children say, some confident, some hopeful. Harry's broom jumps into his hand with a snap. Ron's doesn't move at first. Neville's wobbles uncertainly, and then, after some guidance, they're airborne. For some, it's shaky and short. For others, it's terrifying. But for Harry, it's as if the wind itself welcomes him. He rises smoothly into the air. The ground below softens into a patchwork of green and stone. The sky lifts around him, like open arms. He banks gently to the left, broom responsive to every instinct. For a moment, he feels utterly at home. But then, there's a mishap. Poor Neville, in his usual nervousness, kicks off too soon, panics, and loses control. His broom rises sharply, tosses him, and he falls. A tumble that ends with a broken wrist. Madame Hooch, fuming, takes him to the hospital wing and warns the others not to touch the brooms. The moment she disappears, Draco Malfoy seizes the opportunity to stir trouble. He finds a small glass ball Neville had dropped, a Remember-all glowing faintly with red mist. Draco tosses it into the air with a smirk. He taunts Harry, holding it high. Harry's fists clench. The taunts roll like cold marbles across the grass. Then Draco mounts his broom. Let's see if you can catch it, Potter. And he's off, soaring into the air. Without thinking, Harry follows. The wind rushes past his ears. He dives and climbs, heart pounding not with fear but thrill. Draco throws the Remember-all high. Harry sees it arc like a falling star, and he leans forward, down, down, faster and faster, and catches, in one hand, inches from the ground. The broom steady beneath him. He lands to stunned silence. Whispers all around. Awe in the faces of the watching students. But then, Professor McGonagall arrives. She's furious. Or at least, she looks it. She marches Harry inside without a word. The walk feels endless. Harry's stomach twists. Had he just earned a place and lost it in a single morning? But McGonagall doesn't take him to her office. She takes him to Oliver Wood, the Gryffindor Quidditch captain. And there, in a small, sunlit chamber, she says something that changes everything. "Wood, I've found you a seeker." Harry stares. He is not being punished. He is being chosen. The youngest seeker in a century. Quidditch, the fast, thrilling sport played on broomsticks, has a position waiting just for him. Harry doesn't even know all the rules yet, but the word seeker feels right, as though it fits, into a space inside him that's been waiting for it. Later that day, Malfoy is not pleased. His smirk has hardened into something colder. He challenges Harry to a midnight duel, the old wizarding way of settling a grievance. Harry accepts, though he's never been in a duel, and doesn't know what to expect. Ron, ever loyal, insists on coming with him. That night, the castle sleeps. Harry and Ron tiptoe through the quiet corridors, the moonlight slanting through stained glass windows, the suits of armor silent and still. Each creak in the floor feels like a drumbeat, each shadow a whisper. They pass the portrait of the fat lady, slipping through the common room and then into the hush of the castle beyond. They are not alone. Hermione, ever suspicious, has followed them. She tries to stop them, lecturing quietly but firmly about school rules, house points, and the danger of being caught. But when the fat lady's portrait swings shut, locking her out of Gryffindor Tower, she's forced to join them. And so the three become four as Neville, who'd fallen asleep outside the common room, stumbles along behind them. They reach the trophy room, empty, echoing, with glass cases full of shimmering prizes and dusty plaques. The seconds tick by, but Draco never comes. Instead, there's a sound. Footsteps. Not Malfoy. Filch, the caretaker, and his cat, Mrs. Norris. Panic. They scatter like leaves in the wind, running through the quiet halls, breath sharp and fast. The Idiot Castle, always shifting, becomes a maze. Up staircases, down corridors, through cold passages and past sleepy portraits who mutter and snore. They finally slip through a heavy door and shut it softly behind them. Silence. And then they realize they are not alone. The room is vast, musty, and dark. Something moves. And there, looming in the shadows, is a giant creature. A three-headed dog, each head growling low and slow, massive, with yellow eyes and teeth like small swords. The students freeze. The dog snarls. And then Harry sees something beneath its huge paws, a trapdoor in the floor. Not just a room, a secret. Hermione, quick-witted and calm, drags them backward and pulls the door shut softly. They retreat down the corridor, hearts pounding, the sounds of growling fading behind them. When they finally reach safety, back in the Gryffindor Common, room breathless and shaken, they try to make sense of what they've seen. A dog guarding a trapdoor deep in the school, hidden in the shadows. Something important must be hidden there, something that powerful magic protects. But for now, that secret remains just out of reach, and the castle, mysterious and vast, settles again into silence. Harry climbs back into bed. The sheets cool against his skin. He lies awake for a long time, staring at the canopy above. Quidditch, dueling, mysteries beneath the floor. Hogwarts is full of surprises, and Harry's first year has only just begun. Chapter 10. Halloween. The days drift by, soft as mist, and with each passing week, Hogwarts feels a little more like home to Harry. The stone corridors are still unfamiliar in places, but the smell of parchment, the glow of floating candles, and the warm chatter in the Great Hall are beginning to wrap around him like a blanket. October arrives with a breath of frost, and with it, the promise of Halloween. The castle seems to sigh with anticipation. Pumpkins, enormous and hollowed, are prepared by Hagrid down in his garden. The house elves begin crafting rich spiced cakes and floating sweets. Candles flicker more warmly in the evenings. And through it all, a quiet, pleasant excitement settles over the students. Yet not all is peaceful. Professor Snape still eyes Harry with his cold, unreadable stare. In potions class, his voice is low and sharp as ever. His favoritism toward the Slytherins, barely hidden, his dislike of Harry grows no less obvious, and though Harry does his best to keep his head down, the tension is like a chill draft beneath the dungeon door. And then there's Quidditch. Harry begins to train, guided by Oliver Wood, whose enthusiasm for the game borders on obsession. Wood explains the rules carefully, describing the role of the Seeker, Harry's role, with particular intensity. Catch the golden snitch, and you can turn the tide of an entire match. The snitch is small, golden, fast and elusive, almost alive in the way it dances through the air. To catch it is to become a kind of legend. Harry practices high in the sky, looping and diving through the wind, the broom an extension of his very thoughts. There's freedom in the air. There's purpose. But beneath all this, something darker begins to ripple. It begins on Halloween morning. The Great Hall is draped in fluttering orange streamers and grinning jack-o'-lanterns that float high in the air. Golden plates shimmer under heaps of treats, pumpkin pasties, candy bats, and toffee apples. The ceiling reflects the gray afternoon sky, streaked with the low promise of storm. Everyone is looking forward to the feast that evening. Everyone, that is, except Hermione Granger. The tension that has long simmered between Hermione and the others, particularly Ron, comes to a quiet boil that morning. During a charms lesson, they're practicing the levitation charm, Wingardium Leviosa. The classroom hums with whispered incantations and flicks of wands. Hermione, precise and clever, performs it perfectly, making a feather float gently in midair. But her know-it-all tone grates on Ron. "She's a nightmare, honestly," he mutters, not realizing Hermione is just behind him. Her face changes, and for the rest of the day she disappears. She doesn't come to lunch, doesn't sit with the others, doesn't speak. The evening comes. The feast begins. The Great Hall is transformed. Hundreds of bats fluttering from the ceiling, candles flickering in every corner, and the food, oh the food, appears in an instant. Golden roast, gleaming puddings, platters of every shape and flavor. But the mood is broken by panic. Professor Quirrell bursts into the hall, pale and shaking. "Troll, in the dungeons, thought you ought to know." He collapses. Gasps ripple through the students. The teachers leap to their feet. Dumbledore raises his arms and his voice echoes over the hall. "Prefects, lead your houses back to the dormitories." But Harry and Ron are not thinking about themselves. They're thinking of Hermione, still alone, likely still in the girls' bathroom, unaware of the danger that's now stalking the castle. They slip away from their group. The corridors are eerily quiet. The torches flicker as they move, casting their shadows long against the stone walls, and then they find it. The troll, It is enormous, 12 feet tall, gray-skinned, dull-eyed. Its smell hits them first, like a damp cellar and rotting socks. It lumbers down the corridor, dragging a thick wooden club behind it. It turns, enters the girls' bathroom. Inside, Hermione screams. Without thinking, Harry and Ron rush in. What happens next feels like something half-remembered from a dream. The troll roars. Its footsteps shake the floor. Hermione, frozen in fear, backs into the far corner. Her wand lies uselessly nearby. Harry grabs its attention, throwing things, shouting. The troll swings its club wildly. Ron, eyes wide, stammers an incantation. Wingardium Leviosa. And suddenly, the troll's own club lifts, slowly at first, then faster, and drops, right onto its head. There's a thud like a falling tree, and the troll slumps, unconscious. Silence. Hermione is shaken, but safe. Professors McGonagall, Snape, and Quirrell arrive moments later. Their expressions flicker between disbelief, alarm, and the first notes of grudging respect. Hermione, in a quiet but firm voice, lies. She says it was her fault, that she had gone looking for the troll, and Harry and Ron had only come to help. It isn't true, but it matters. For the first time, the divide between them begins to close. That night, as they sit beside the fire in the common room, the glow soft and comforting around them, something has shifted. They are no longer just classmates. They are friends. And sometimes, as the narrator gently notes, there are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out a 12-foot mountain troll is one of them. Outside the tower windows, the storm rolls away into the night. Inside, 3 children lean closer to the fire. Something stronger than bravery has begun to grow, something called trust. Chapter 11, Quidditch. The days that follow the Halloween feast carry a new kind of rhythm. The warmth of newfound friendship softens the sharpness of everyday challenges. Harry, Ron, and Hermione have become a trio. Where once were awkward silences and wary glances, there are now quiet laughter, shared books, and companionable walks between classes. Autumn deepens into early frost. The air is crisp, biting at fingers and noses, and the sky seems to grow, wider and bluer above the ancient turrets. But even as the days grow shorter, there's one thing that makes Harry's heart race with something close to joy. Quidditch. The word itself seems to shimmer with movement and possibility. It is more than a sport at Hogwarts. It's tradition, pride, legacy. The 4 houses each have their own team, and the rivalry runs deep and old. For Gryffindor, this year holds special hope. Harry Potter, the youngest Seeker in a century, is to take to the skies. Oliver Wood becomes a presence in Harry's life, not just as a captain, but as a mentor. He speaks of formations, plays, tactics, but most importantly, he drills into Harry the heart of the Seeker's role: focus. The Seeker doesn't chase the game's flow. The Seeker waits, watches, strikes at just the right moment to capture the elusive golden snitch. And Harry, light, fast, and agile, feels oddly suited for it. The broom beneath him, the Nimbus 2000, is no longer a novelty. It feels like an extension of himself, a thread of magic and muscle that links him to the sky. The morning of the first match dawns pale and clear. The castle buzzes with excitement. Students chatter over breakfast, waving miniature flags, painting their cheeks with house colors. In the changing room, Harry pulls on his scarlet robes, his stomach fluttering with nerves. Wood tries to offer encouragement. Fred and George, both beaters, tease gently, but with a kind of brotherly pride. Outside, the stands are filling. The entire school seems to have turned up, bundled in cloaks and scarves, eyes bright. The pitch is a wide oval, ringed with tall hoops and watchtowers. The grass is slick with dew. Madame Hooch's whistle cuts the air, and just like that, there, off the sky becomes a blur of color and motion. Players dive and climb, twisting through the wind like leaves caught in a storm. The quaffle is passed and stolen. Bludgers zip through the air like iron wasps, and the crowd gasps and cheers. Harry rises higher than the others, eyes scanning, searching. The snitch is out there, somewhere. A flicker of gold against the gray clouds. But something strange happens. Harry's broom jolts. Just once at first. A subtle twitch beneath him, then again, sharper. It shudders violently, pulls left. Harry clutches tightly, knuckles whitening. From the stands, Hermione notices something's wrong. Harry's broom is bucking, twisting as though resisting him. He's not flying anymore. He's hanging on. Eyes rise to the teacher's stand. Professor Snape stands still, eyes locked on Harry, lips moving in a silent chant. Hermione doesn't hesitate. She slips away, fast and low, Ron beside her. Up in the tower, they find Snape and act a bit of accidental fire, a moment of chaos. Snape's concentration breaks, and just like that, Harry steadies. The broom calms beneath him. The wild dance ends. The snitch appears, dancing like a mote of sunlight. Near the stands, Harry leans forward, accelerates. The wind roars in his ears, and in one swift, tumbling moment, Harry catches it, right out of the air. The match ends. The crowd explodes in cheers. Gryffindor wins. Back in the common room, laughter and music fill the night. Fred and George sing off-key songs. Percy allows himself a rare smile. Ron describes Harry's catch to anyone who will listen. But something lingers. The broom's behavior. The hex. Snape's intent gaze. A mystery has begun to unfurl. A thread pulled quietly in the shadows. Harry lies awake long after the others sleep. Outside the window, stars turn slowly. Inside, questions begin to stir, soft and slow, but present all the same. Who had tried to curse his broom, and why? Chapter 12. The Mirror of Erised. The days shorten into winter's hush. Snow thickens across the grounds of Hogwarts, blanketing the hills and rooftops with silence. Icicles hang from the stone arches like crystal fingers, and the forbidden forest looms, cloaked in frost and shadow. Inside, the castle glows with warmth and color. Great trees are placed in the halls, draped with shimmering baubles and strands of enchanted tinsel. Candles float gently above the long dining tables, and the scent of cinnamon and warm bread carries through the corridors. It is nearly Christmas, and for Harry, there's a quiet ache beneath the wonder of it all. It's his first true Christmas, the first where joy doesn't feel like something distant or borrowed. The castle empties slightly as many students leave for the holidays, but Harry stays behind, joined by Ron and a handful of others. Without the rush of classes or the usual noise of daily life, Hogwarts becomes dreamlike. The halls echo more. The common room is cozy and calm. Time slows, and then, on Christmas morning, Harry wakes to something unimaginable. Gifts, his very own. There's excitement and laughter as he and Ron tear open packages, sweets, games, handmade sweaters. But one gift stands out. Wrapped in silver, paper lies something soft and deep. A cloak. Not just any cloak. A cloak of invisibility, shimmering, weightless, ancient, and with it, a note. Your father left this in my possession before he died. It is time it was returned to you. Use it well. No signature, no name. Just a quiet doorway into something mysterious. That night, with the cloak folded over his arm and the castle bathed in moonlight, Harry slips into the corridors. Invisible, silent, free. The air is cool against his cheeks as he moves through the quiet school, past portraits that snore in gilded frames, past suits of armor that shift with sleepy creaks. At first, Harry's aim is simple curiosity, a bit of exploring under the cover of magic, but then something shifts, a turn taken by chance. A dark hallway, and at the end of it, a door, an unused classroom, dusty, empty, except for a mirror, tall, framed in gold. Its surface seems to shimmer faintly even in the dark. Harry approaches and stops. What he sees is not his reflection. It's himself, yes, but not alone. Standing beside him in the glass are his parents. His mother's eyes, gentle and green. His father's hair, untidy like his own. They smile at him, not ghostly, not distant, real, so real. It takes his breath. He stares, longs, and in the hush of that moonlit room, time seems to hold its breath. He returns the next night, and the next, drawn back not by curiosity now, but by yearning to see them, to feel close, to remember what he never knew. But he's not alone. Ron follows one night, curious and uncertain. He looks into the mirror and sees himself, not with family, but celebrated. Quidditch captain, head boy, a house, cup in hand, admired, seen. The mirror shows something different to each of them, not what they are, but what they desire, deeply, secretly. And then, on another night, Harry returns alone again. But this time, he is not the only soul awake. A voice in the darkness. Back again, Harry. It is Dumbledore, soft-eyed, quiet, and knowing. He does not scold. Instead, he explains. The mirror is called the Mirror of Erised. It shows the heart's deepest desire. To some, family. To others, power. To many, things they cannot have. And that, Dumbledore warns, is its danger. It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. He tells Harry the mirror will be moved. Hidden and gently, he urges him forward, not away from memory or longing, but toward what lies ahead. The mirror will remain in Harry's thoughts, like a shimmer at the edge of waking. But now he knows, desire, while powerful, must be tempered. And sometimes the truest magic lies not in what we see, but in what we choose to do. Outside, the snow continues to fall. Inside, the common room is warm. Harry, wrapped in the soft glow of firelight, begins to understand something more. That love, though, lost, leaves echoes, and that hope, quiet and slow, begins like that. A reflection, a whisper, a single step into the unknown. Chapter 13. Nicolas Flamel. Winter holds its breath outside, cloaking the castle in frost. Inside, the lull of the holidays begins to fade as lessons resume and the pulse of Hogwarts stirs once more. But something has shifted for Harry, Ron, and Hermione. There's more beneath the surface now, something they've seen and not yet understood. The three-headed dog, the restricted corridor, the mirror, yes, but also something else. A question. What was hidden there? And more curiously, why? The name Nicolas Flamel hangs in Harry's thoughts like a half-remembered dream. It came up once, just once on that card from his first chocolate frog, a tiny dancing wizard, a line of text. Dumbledore is particularly famous for his work on alchemy with his partner, Nicolas Flamel. It had seemed unimportant at the time, but now it hums with significance. They search. In corners of the library lit by floating candles through books that smell of dust and time, the trio looks for anything on Flamel. The name is elusive, always just out of reach. The restricted section tempts them with its heavy chained tomes, books that whisper when opened, pages that scream if disturbed too loudly. And while Harry ventures briefly inside, under the cloak in the hush of night, he finds only confusion and eerie echoes. But the answer arrives not with danger or drama, but with quiet surprise. Hermione, always ahead, discovers it in a simple book she'd checked out weeks ago for light reading. Nicolas Flamel is the only known maker of the Philosopher's Stone. A simple sentence, but it shifts everything. The Philosopher's Stone, a legendary object said to transform any metal into pure gold, and more importantly, capable of producing the elixir of life, a potion that grants immortality. Suddenly, the pieces begin to fall into place. What lies hidden in that forbidden corridor isn't just dangerous, it's precious, ancient, coveted, and the dog, Fluffy, is guarding it. They realize now what Hagrid let slip months ago. He said something was being kept safe at Hogwarts. A small grubby package removed from Gringotts Bank. The vault that was broken into the very next day. It all points to one truth. The Philosopher's Stone is at Hogwarts. But who might be after it? Suspicions bloom once more around Snape. That same cold presence that tried to curse Harry's broom. Could he be working alone? Could he know more than he lets on? And yet there are no firm answers, only guesses. The mystery thickens, like mist in the early morning. Still, life at school continues. Classes, Quidditch practice, the occasional mishap with rogue spells. But beneath it all, a thread winds tighter. The stone, Flamel, the forbidden corridor, a purpose quietly beginning to take shape. For Harry, it is more than curiosity. It is a sense of something larger, something waiting, a secret meant to be kept, but which, like all secrets, has started to whisper in corners, in dreams, and in the slow hush of Hogwarts halls after dark. Chapter 14, Norbert the Norwegian Ridgeback. The days grow longer now, just a little. The sun lingers in the windows, casting long golden rays through the glass, softening the cold stone corridors. But the air remains brisk, especially at night when the castle seems to hum with hidden things. For Harry, Ron, and Hermione, the question of the Philosopher's Stone lingers still, like a puzzle nearly complete. They watch Snape carefully. They listen for signs, for slips, for anything that might give them answers. And yet the mystery holds fast, but something new is about to unfold. It begins, as it so often does, with Hagrid. Dear warm-hearted Hagrid, keeper of keys, lover of creatures great and strange, has been acting oddly. Nervous, secretive. With a twinkle in his eye and soot on his sleeves, he has acquired an egg. Not just any egg. A large, mottled, leathery egg, warm and trembling with life. A dragon's egg. And Hagrid, filled with wonder and delight, nests it carefully in the fire in his wooden hut. He reads to it, sings to it, coaxes it gently, as if he's the first mother to ever meet such a child. Harry and Hermione are stunned. Ron, fascinated and horrified in equal measure, immediately recognizes the type of egg it is. A Norwegian Ridgeback. Rare, dangerous, illegal. Still, Hagrid beams with joy and pride, as if he's expecting a visit from an old friend. And soon enough, the egg hatches. With a crack, a shiver, and a curl of smoke, out wriggles a baby dragon. Tiny, sharp-snouted with spiny wings and glittering eyes, the creature coughs out sparks and immediately tries to bite Ron's shoe. Hagrid is enchanted. He names the dragon Norbert. But Norbert does not stay small for long. Within days, he's grown noticeably. Clumsy, strong, and extremely fond of singeing things, he bites, snaps, growls, and belches smoke with alarming enthusiasm. And still, Hagrid insists he's misunderstood. Just a baby, he says, as Norbert tries to eat the table. The situation cannot last. Someone is bound to notice. The smell of smoke, the sounds of snarls, the shouts from Hagrid's hut. Soon enough, Malfoy catches wind of the secret, and he's not one to keep secrets kindly. Fear grows. If Malfoy tells the wrong person, if Norbert is discovered, Hagrid could be expelled, or worse. They need a plan. Hermione, always the practical one, hatches a scheme. Ron writes to his older brother Charlie, who works with dragons in Romania. Charlie agrees to help. He'll send friends to take Norbert away safely, to a place where he'll be understood and cared for. The rendezvous will happen atop the astronomy tower. It must be done quietly, at night. With Norbert smuggled up through the castle beneath Harry's invisibility cloak. It's a mad plan, but it's all they have. The night arrives, cloaked in shadows and stars. Norbert, now large and feisty, thrashes as they carry him through darkened corridors. Harry and Hermione move carefully, hearts thudding, the dragon growling in their arms. Step by step, stair by stair, they climb. At the tower's peak, beneath the night sky, two wizards await, Charlie's friends. They handle Norbert expertly, tying him gently, lifting him into a harness. There's a last puff of smoke, a flick of wings, and Norbert is gone. Into the dark, into the sky, into freedom. Harry and Hermione feel the tension ease. But their return is not so simple. In their rush and relief, they forget the cloak on the landing, and that leads to trouble. Filch catches them. Worse still, McGonagall is furious. Not just about rules broken, but the sheer recklessness. They are given detention, something both terrifying and humiliating. And more than that, they feel the weight of how close they've come to disaster. Still, in the quiet that follows, there's a sense of something else. Not regret exactly. They helped Hagrid. They protected a creature. They acted from the heart. Even so, the danger surrounding the Philosopher's Stone has not gone away. In fact, it feels closer now, more urgent. But for this night, as the stars stretch out across the heavens and the wind rushes over the high towers of Hogwarts, Harry, Ron, and Hermione rest, worn, wiser, and still holding the thread of something vast and magical. A dragon has flown. But the real fire, it seems, is yet to come. Chapter 15, The Forbidden Forest. Detention. It weighs heavily on Harry, Hermione, Neville, and yes, even Malfoy, who, despite his usual bluster, seems far less confident when the punishment begins. They're told to meet at Hagrid's hut, late one night, far past bedtime, under the stretch of a moonlit sky. The stars are cold above them, and the grass beneath their feet is wet with dew. Even the castle seems to hold its breath as they gather. Hagrid waits, lantern in hand, his great coat like a moving wall in the dark, and beside him, a great boarhound Fang, who whines and licks his chops nervously. The punishment? They're going into the Forbidden Forest, It's a place most students only whisper about. Dark, vast, ancient. Trees so old they seem to murmur secrets when the wind moves through their branches. Even professors give it a wide berth. But something has happened in the forest. Something unnatural. Unicorns have been found wounded. One has been killed. Hagrid's voice is low as he explains. Unicorns, he says, are pure and magical. To harm such a creature, it is a terrible thing. Their task is simple, though dangerous, to search for signs, clues, anything that might explain what or who is hurting these sacred beings. They split into pairs, Hagrid and Harry with Fang, Malfoy and Neville. Later they switch. The forest envelops them quickly. The moonlight is swallowed by trees. The underbrush crunches underfoot. Owls cry in the distance. And somewhere, far away, the sound of something dragging across leaves. It is not just darkness here, there is magic too. They come upon silvery unicorn blood, shimmering on the ground like spilled starlight. So pure, so strange. There are hoofprints too, pressed into the earth, as if the creature had been fleeing something. And then, just as suddenly, they find the body. A unicorn, still and beautiful, its coat gleaming like liquid moonlight even, in death. Harry stares, and in the clearing ahead, he sees something. A figure, hunched, cloaked, bending over the unicorn's form. It drinks, its mouth to the wound, drinking the unicorn's blood. The sight freezes Harry to the spot. The figure lifts its head. Its face is hidden, but Harry feels something burn across his scar. Sharp, sudden, blinding. Pain explodes in his forehead. He staggers back. The creature moves toward him, gliding rather than walking, silent as smoke and just as cold. But suddenly, galloping, hooves. A shape bursts into view, tall, fierce, gleaming in the dim light. A centaur. It charges, and the cloaked figure recoils, vanishing into the trees. The centaur speaks gently, his voice like the rustle of leaves. His name is Firenze. He lifts Harry onto his back and carries him from the glade. And as they move, Firenze explains what Harry had only begun to guess. Unicorn blood, he says, will keep you alive even when death is near. But at a cost. To kill something so pure to sustain yourself, that creates a half-life. A cursed, sorrowful existence. Only someone truly desperate would do such a thing. And Firenze believes he knows who that is. He speaks of a presence, one who lost power years ago, one who seeks a host, someone to share their body, to survive. Harry says the name aloud, softly, uncertainly. Voldemort. Firenze nods. But not all centaurs agree with Firenze's choice to interfere. They meet Bane and Ronan, other centaurs who believe fate must unfold on its own. The stars, they say, have already told them what's to come. But Firenze, kind and fierce, believes in protecting the innocent. Back at the edge of the forest, Hagrid waits, worried and wide-eyed. Harry's scar still throbs. His heart, too. What he saw. What he felt. It's more than fear. It's the sense that something ancient has stirred again just beneath the surface of the world. In the days that follow, Harry tries to carry on, through classes and meals and quiet hours in the common room. But he knows now. The stone is in danger, and so is he. Whatever Voldemort is, whoever he is hiding behind, he's close, watching, waiting, and still hungry. Chapter 16, Through the Trapdoor. The days are growing warmer at Hogwarts, and summer seems to bloom at the edges of windows and along the courtyards. But beneath the surface of that golden season, something darker moves. Harry is restless. Whispers swirl around the Philosopher's Stone, a strange, powerful object said to grant immortality and limitless wealth. He and Hermione, with Ron always at their side, know now that someone wants the stone, wants it enough to drink unicorn blood, wants it enough to kill. And Harry, his heart beating with quiet urgency, suspects Professor Snape. He always has. But there's something else now. A feeling. That time is running out. That someone will try to take the stone. Tonight. In the quiet of the common room, they make a decision. They must go through the trapdoor. They must reach the stone before the thief does. First, they need a way past Fluffy, the three-headed dog that guards the trapdoor on the 3rd floor. The answer lies in music. During a visit to Hagrid's hut earlier that week, the half-giant had let something slip. Fluffy sleeps when music is played, so Hermione fetches a harp and Ron carries a flute, and together, the three of them step into the 3rd floor corridor. Heartbeats thudding, minds focused. Behind the locked door, Fluffy is waiting, massive, growling, 3 heads like living stone, drool pooling on the floor. But the moment music plays, the beast settles. Its eyes close, its growls slow to soft, snuffling snores. The trap door is beneath it. They lift it. Darkness gapes below, wide and deep and waiting. They jump. Harry lands on something soft, springy, almost like a net, but it begins to tighten, twist. It's Devil's Snare, a magical plant that reacts to tension and fear. Ron struggles, panics. Hermione, thinking quickly, remembers that Devil's Snare hates light and warmth. She conjures a beam of fire, soft and golden, and the plant recoils, retreating into the darkness. They fall free. Their journey has truly begun. The next chamber is wide and glowing with wings. Flying keys shimmer through the air, each with silver feathers darting like birds. At the far end is a door, with a single keyhole. To pass through, they must catch the correct key. Harry mounts a broom, his seeker's instinct humming. Wind rushes past as he swerves, spins, dodges, eyes locked on a particular key, slightly bent from use. He reaches, stretches, and catches it. The door unlocks. They step through. In the next room, a giant chessboard awaits, not just decorative, alive. The pieces are life-sized and vigilant. To cross, they must play, and play as the pieces. Ron, with his love of chess, takes charge. He studies the board, thinks, guides Harry and Hermione into position. The game begins. Pieces move with thunderous weight. Swords swing, stone crashes against stone. And then, Ron sees the winning move. But to make it, he must sacrifice himself. He climbs onto a knight square. The opposing queen charges. She strikes. Ron crumples, unconscious but alive. Harry and Hermione rush to his side. But there's no time. They press forward. The next chamber holds a puzzle of logic and potions. Flames, both black and purple, block the doors forward and back. On a table sits a row of bottles and a riddle. Hermione's mind shines here. She reads the puzzle, thinks it through, counts carefully. One bottle will let Harry move forward. One will take her safely back. She gives Harry the vial, tells him to go on, to find the stone. She'll return for Ron. Her voice trembles slightly, but her eyes are steady, and Harry steps into the fire. The flames vanish. A stone chamber waits beyond, and in it, Professor Quirrell, not Snape, not someone he suspected, but the quiet, stammering teacher in the turban. He turns, smiles, strange and cold, and Harry realizes he has walked into something far deeper than he imagined. But we will pause here in the hush of that chamber. Let the shadows soften, let the air still. There is more to come, but not just yet. We'll continue soon, gently, into the final revelations. Chapter 17, The Man with Two Faces. Harry stands in the stone chamber, his breath slow but steady, heart pulsing softly in the stillness. Before him, Professor Quirrell moves with a new confidence, his usual nervous stammer replaced by a calm, chilling grace. The turban he wears hides more than just hair. Beneath it, the shadow of another presence dwells, quiet, sinister, but fragile. As Harry watches, the truth unfolds gently, like a whispered secret. Quirrell is not acting alone. Behind him, hidden in the folds of his turban, is the dark figure they had feared most. Voldemort, a whisper of a voice, cold and thin, but filled with hunger and ancient power. Voldemort's body is weak, barely holding itself together. He depends on Quirrell's strength, his body to move and act. Together they have come for the stone, the source of eternal life. Power beyond imagining. Quirrell reaches out his hands, trembling but determined, toward Harry. But Harry's scar burns, not with pain, but with warmth. A warmth that spreads through him, bright and fierce. It is the love his mother left behind, a shield stronger than any spell. As Quirrell's hands brush Harry, the pain becomes unbearable. Quirrell screams, clutching his face as the protective magic burns him. Voldemort shrieks in fury, but the power is too great. Harry, feeling a surge of courage, remembers the stone is hidden in his own pocket, tucked away safely by Dumbledore's magic. Quirrell lunges for it, but Harry stands firm. The chamber fills with a brilliant light. Suddenly, Quirrell collapses, defeated by the very love he cannot understand. Voldemort's shadow fades, slipping away like smoke on the breeze. And Harry, trembling but unbroken, realizes the depth of what he carries. Not just courage, but a love that protects him. When Dumbledore arrives, the castle is calm again. He speaks softly to Harry, explaining more about the stone, about the power of sacrifice and love that no dark magic can touch. The stone will be destroyed, safely out of reach. Harry is tired now, his body weak from the encounter, but his spirit feels something new, hope. For though the shadows will always be near, love can be a light that never fades. So, in the quiet aftermath, the boy who lived steps gently into a world where magic is not just spells and potions, but the strength to face darkness with a kind heart. And as the castle settles into sleep, so can we, wrapped in that same quiet courage. Final reflection, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. This story at its heart is a gentle invitation to wonder. It begins with a boy, Harry, who feels small, unseen, out of place. Yet beneath that quietness lies a courage both fragile and fierce. The magic here is not just in spells or potions, but in the soft power of love, of friendship, and of choice. Harry's journey reminds us how kindness and bravery can bloom even in shadowed places. How the past, its mysteries and losses shapes us, but does not define us. The characters, from the warm loyalty of Ron and Hermione to the wise, gentle strength of Dumbledore, are companions who teach us about trust, courage, and belonging. Even the dark edges, the lurking threat of Voldemort, the trials of the forest, and the silent danger beneath the castle are softened here by hope and protection. The Philosopher's Stone itself, a symbol of eternal life, becomes a mirror reflecting what truly lasts, the choices we make and the love we carry. J.K. Rowling's words paint a world both ordinary and extraordinary, a place where the magical and the human intertwine. Where growing up is not about forgetting who you were, but discovering who you can become. And as we close the book tonight, we are left with quiet questions. What magic lives quietly in your own story? What love, unseen but powerful, shields you in the dark? And what new adventures await in the dawn? May these gentle thoughts carry you softly toward sleep, wrapped in warmth and the promise of tomorrow's light. Good night.